Welcome to Boy Green Daily. Tyron Smith signed with the New York Jets. My father joins us next, the diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. Buckle up, baby. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Good morning, everybody. Paul Esnin Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video program, also available wherever you get your podcast. And welcome to the show. In case you missed it, last night we did a 2-hour live stream reacting to the fact that the Dallas Cowboys offensive tackle Tyron Smith has joined the New York Jets, baby. You guys might have missed this, so I'll play this clip real quick. Joe Douglas told Jet fans that Tyron Smith will be blocking for Aaron Rodgers. You might have missed this. Here it is.
What's he coming? He's going to be here. He's going to get it.
Beautiful. All right, let's bring him in. My father. This is the greatest show of my life. I absolutely love this. Hop on pop. My father, the diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, joins us now. Let's bring him in. Father, good friggin' morning.
Shut up, moron.
That's great. Hey, what jersey is that?
Well, very similar. I'll put in this jersey in terms Jet fans can understand.
Sure, yeah.
What was the last jersey that Joe Namath wore in the NFL?
How dare you?
Remember?
How dare you, sir?
Oh, no, I digress. I move on. How many different jerseys did Revis Island wear? Oh, no. Anyways,
yeah, that's
3 or 4. Yes.
Yeah, it's 4, I believe, but that doesn't seem important at this time.
So this, for anyone watching, as I am a Cowboys fan, I'm also a fan of the Jets. But this, I have loyalty. And this is an Emmitt Smith Arizona Cardinals jersey that I bought when he was signed by the Arizona Cardinals. Wow. I also have a Jason Witten Raiders.
I forgot about that one. Wow.
Those are 2 legacy players. So I would tell you that it is a sad day. It's unfortunate, and I'll tell you, I believe the NFL, like the NFL has a pretty solid salary cap system. If you look at some of the other sports, it's insane. Like baseball, if you pay more, you just have to pay a tax.
Right. NBA,
NBA
sure.
has like an exemption. I think there should be an exemption allowed, or a couple allowed, to allow you to go above the salary cap for situations like this. But it is a sad day. But I'll digress over, right? So Tyron Smith, phenomenal talent. However, it's a great day for the New York Jets. They bring one of the best offensive linemen of all time. I'd use your promo of all time into their fold. I will say this, and I thought I would never say this. We talk about Tyron Smith in a minute. It appears that the Jets management has actually, somebody must have smacked with a baseball bat. I don't know what it is, but they're actually, for now, making sense. So they're doing the right thing. They're building an offensive line, and this is a cornerstone piece to understand that to build that offensive line and not overcommit, right?
Yeah.
So 1-year deal, I think you talked about it. It's like incentive laden, could be $20 million, could be $6 million, 6.5.
Yeah, real quick, not to interrupt you. We didn't know these details just so now. So last night, when we did the breaking news live stream, the only information we had out was it was a 1-year deal with a maximum value of 20 million, which obviously left a lot of ominous nature there. So how much was guaranteed? What was this? I will tell Jet fans, we now know that information according to Pro Football Talk, and this is even more stunning than I thought, because when the Jets have been put over the barrel before, Dwayne Brown's a good example, that they brought him in for a visit in late August. At that time, it appeared to be a luxury, and then a devastating injury happened, and the Jets had to scramble and give him a 2-year, $20+ million deal, and there's crazy guarantees and all this stuff, and the Jets are still paying for that even now to this day. It looks like the Jets have gotten the steal of all steals. Normally, they would have to overpay for some sort of free agent. Here's a Pro Football Talk. I will throw that here on the big board. And this is from Pro Football Talk. I'll also read it for audio-only listeners. Initial indications of the Tyron Smith deal. $6.5 million guaranteed, with another $13.5 million to be earned based on playing time incentives and other incentives of that nature. The Jets were surprised he took the offer, interestingly. So, wow, it seems like the Jets got a great deal, and then Tyron Smith signed it. So it wasn't some overpay, it appears, from the contract, which is phenomenal.
That's right. I mean, and what did the Jets add, right? So they added a 13-year veteran, a former first-round draft pick out of USC, someone that over the course of his 13-year career has only allowed about 38 sacks. And if you take off his first season, that drops dramatically. The past 5 years, it's about 5.5 sacks he's allowed. And just wrap your head around that, protecting the blind side, allowing 5 sacks over 5 years. And so it's a great move by the Jets, a good move for the Jets. And it is a sad day as a Cowboy, right? He'll always be, he'll sign the legend contract down the road,
Sure.
hopefully a couple years down the road. But it's the key here for the Jets beyond this, celebrate this. But I don't think our plan for the draft should change significantly. And
Ooh,
I
interesting.
talked
Okay, this is a
about it.
good conversation to have. Yeah.
And I think you talked about it because whoever it is, and you have the numbers, I've read them, but how many different starting combinations did the Jets have at offensive line last year due to injury?
13.
Yeah, 13. Right. So hopefully Tyron Smith, he has had some injuries as everyone has. But not only him, but building in the bench strength is a key. And so maybe you don't need, this gives the Jets the luxury to trade out of the first round, build some more draft stock. It also gives them the luxury of taking a lineman, in the second round, but you can't ignore this. You've made some good signings, some good deals. You've shored it up. You have the starters. However, you got to put the team behind them. So I think the plan, it gives you flexibility on draft day to trade out of the first round. You don't have that crushing need, but don't be distracted historically by the shiny object. You're still not in a position to overspend or get something that's, like you just get a pay raise. You don't run down to Tiffany's, right, and buy, a year's worth of your salary diamond for your girlfriend, or a Lamborghini to yourself on, a minimum wage salary. So they've made some solid moves, and they just need to recognize it. I don't like their backup quarterback. We talked about it another time. I don't like that signing, but there was a lot more better quarterbacks available. But this was what they've done on the offensive line, phenomenal. They still need that wide receiver 2 through 6 to help out. And so there's a lot of work to be done. Don't be distracted by the shiny object in the first round.
I have no other word but to say stunned for the offense line, because heading into the offseason, the Jets had 2 holes, just in starting, not even talking about depth. 2 holes. That was both tackle spots and maybe a guard spot, depending on where AVT was going to play. And then the Jets created a third by saying, Laken Tomlinson, see you, pal. And they did that ahead of free agency, which put in a tremendous amount of pressure on Joe Douglas. That was a ballsy move because you could have held on to Laken to give yourself a trapdoor just in case you didn't get the offensive lineman you wanted. It's free agency. Anything could happen. Any player could sign anywhere or trades or God knows what. And, so Laken was gone, which surprised me. I'm like, whoa, Joe Douglas was hired in 2019, June of 2019. It's March of 2024. So he's going to be entering his 6th year of his 6-year contract. If he couldn't fill the offensive line in 5 years, I think this was actually a quote you may have said earlier. How is he going to fill it in a single offseason? It's like, whoa, that's a lot of pressure. But to his credit, by March 15th, since it happened yesterday, he completely put we know the starting 5 offensive line right now for the Jets. It is this. Tyron Smith is left tackle. It's going to take some getting used to, but I am more than willing to take whatever time is necessary for that. Tyron Smith, left tackle. You have John Simpson, left guard, who they signed from the Baltimore Ravens on a reasonable deal. You have center Joe Tippmann, who's going to be entering his 2nd year. Elijah Vera-Tucker now goes back to guard where he was drafted in the first place. And then right tackle is Morgan Moses, who they traded for nothing and to acquire from the Baltimore Ravens. So the value's there, and you have a brand new starting offense line for Aaron Rodgers on March 15th, which completely opens the flexibility at 10 overall to do whatever. You gave a couple of options. There's trading back. There's taking BPA. You didn't mention this one. I see a lot of fans saying it about just trading up and continuing the aggression potentially. So that's what I like, though, about the Tyron Smith signing, besides the fact I've been pounding the table for this for a while, and you've told me to shut up and that you didn't want me to put that kind of juju out into the universe because he's a guy I really wanted. And now you don't have to take a left tackle at 10. It doesn't mean it's ruled out, to your point. Tyron Smith is 33. It's a 1-year deal. On the other side of the line, Morgan Moses, he's 33. He's in the last year of his deal. So, and the Jets don't really have an offensive tackle for the future. And Morgan's been very healthy. He's started in at least 14 games in 9 straight years. So he's as rock solid as it gets. And it would have been 16 if it wasn't for this past year. He would have started in at least 16 games, and he did that over an 8-year stretch. So he's been rock solid. And Tyron Smith, while 2 of the last 4 years have been pretty devastating from an injury perspective, prior to that, or include that within the average, he's averaged 13 starts a year. So he misses 3 or 4 on almost a maintenance schedule. But besides that, so I feel like sometimes people overreact to the durability. If you can have 13 years of all-pro Tyron Smith, I will figure out the other 3 or 4 games.
Right. And by the way, you said something that I can't let go by.
Ooh,
all
okay.
Right. The Jets are still not in a position to draft BPA. That would be a mistake, right? How did it pan out last?
Okay.
Yes. No, there's still too many holes to fill. To
Like
feel
what?
confident. Like what?
Yeah,
Wide receiver 2 through 50? A solid second option at tight end? What if the BPA is a defensive tackle? They have
Jet fans might be afraid of that.
You have to be more exclusive than just BPA.
Okay. Yeah.
Could you break down your first round draft pick, the contributions he made last year to the Jets? Could you do that for me? The BPA he bought last year?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the BPA was a bad choice since they did have clear needs last year at wide receiver offense. Oh no, yeah, I'll answer you. I'll do nice by you. He had the lowest amount of snaps.
Just get to the answer.
Yeah, he had the lowest amount of snaps played since Vernon Golston, which is when I was living in your home when the Jets made that selection. And I remember the Jets making that pick. I called my grandfather in the frog room, that is the front room over garage. I said, because my grandpa used to live in Ohio. And I called him and said, hey, we got Vernon Golston. He's like, ugh, an Ohio State guy is what he said. And it ended up not working out. He never recorded a single sack. So at least Will McDonald had 3 sacks last year. So at least that one, that's at least he's cleared that floor. Thank God. But I think last year there were clear needs on the offensive line and wide receiver, and the Jets ignored it to go Will McDonald. This time around, you have your starting 5. You still need the wide receiver, but at the same token, we mentioned this on the live show yesterday. Mike Williams, it is confirmed. People were asking. Mike Williams, the former LA Chargers wide receiver, is visiting the Jets on Monday. So they are exploring the wide receiver waters. That's the one Sauce Gardner was hinting at. and they've been talking to Tyler Boyd. He's another guy who's out there. They've been flirting behind the scenes with Odell Beckham Jr. So that's another one. So they're looking at wide receiver, and if you add that one, it's even less of a point that you have to do this or you have to do that. It felt that way prior to Tyron Smith because they didn't have a left tackle. So you're like, oh boy, well, Jets got to get one of those guys, and that's an immense amount of pressure considering there was a world where the top 2 left tackles and the only 2 left tackles, a bunch of them in the draft are all right tackles, not named Joel or Olu Fashanu. All of a sudden you would have been in a tough pickle. Now, at least, you have that flexibility to clarify my comments.
Yeah, I would tell you that the Jets need to stop thinking like the Jets on the draft. And right, the average team drafts for the future, not for the now. And so
correct, right. Yeah, that's a common misconception.
Right. It's got to be, it could be the BPA in about 4 or 5 positions. It just can't be the BPA.
Yes.
Flat.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to allude to, right? It's got to be, in these positions, we need immediate help. We need, right, these 2 tackles are great. What's the runway for them? We can't wait for another Tyron Smith 2 or 3 years from now, right? We get draft for the future. That was my point.
No, I get you. Yeah.
We need to take that OBJ talk.
Oh, come on.
Throw it out the window. Right? Talk about injury prone, overpayment, trouble in the locker room. This guy, no way.
So let's see. 2 things there. First off, I think one of the things, and I will tweet out a follow-up video. I tweeted it out right before we came on that in 2008, the New York Jets signed 32-year-old, what ended up being future Hall of Fame offensive lineman Alan Faneca from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fast forward 16 years later, in 2024, they signed 33-year-old future Hall of Famer Tyron Smith. So I think, and the clip I will share, I'll give you guys a sneak peek. Nick Mangold joined me on the show over a month ago, and he talked about the impact at that time in 2008, it was his 3rd year in the league. And he said that the impact Alan Faneca had, a Hall of Famer coming in and seeing how a Hall of Famer did it, was like transformational for him and DeBrickashaw Ferguson. They were both 1st-round picks in 2006. And he said seeing that was just crazy because they had never seen that kind of player with them in the offensive line room. And he said it ended up setting up the rest of his career very early in his career, seeing how a Hall of Famer did it. And if you look at the rest of the room, not named Tyron Smith, and I guess not named Morgan Moses, the key young guys there, more so ABT and Joe Tittman, that can kind of set them up for a long period of time. So I'm really excited for the leadership there. And if you have a couple of guys, I use the Game of Thrones reference all the time. If you have a couple of red priestesses in the locker room spreading the gospel, the coaching staff and the team, and you have them in the right positions in the locker room, they can kind of, hold the fort down from a culture perspective. So that part I'm really excited about. So, OBJ, there's, he is still impactful, but he won't make the same money he made last year. Last year's contract was crazy. We all know it was crazy. And the Jets were hot and heavy for him last year. You just got to recalibrate the money a little bit and then come on now. Be wide receiver 3. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I think there is something wrong with it. And the reason is, and this is only, I will tell you that if you're going to go out there and spend some money, so OBJ, you could go OBJ for similar money that you will be able to get, and we talked about it before, Michael Gallup, right? The difference is Michael Gallup has got a long runway in the career. Just for the record, their stats comparable based on their seasons they played. The OBJ that everybody remembers was his first 2 or 3 years with the Giants with that, the weird Madden one-handed catch against the Cowboys, right? The rest of his career, go look at the stats. Go check it out. Not that great, right? He's been the wide receiver, for the annexation of Puerto Rico for the little Giants, right? Every once in a while, trots on the field for one play and has something. He averages for his career 14 yards a catch. Michael Gallup, 14.1 yards a catch. Longer runway, less attitude. Gallup is the one to go here, and they will both go, in my opinion, for similar money. And by the way, Gallup is faster than OBJ today. Not maybe 10 years ago, obviously, because Michael Gallup was probably still on his mom's tit. But anyways, he's faster today, similar numbers, longer runway. Michael Gallup is the place to go.
He'd be interesting. Yeah, he ended up getting straight up released. So there was some trade talks had with Gallup, but as soon as the trade talks like that become public in the way that they did, it felt like they became public because there was no generated enough interest. You have that to see if any team's like, oh, and then it didn't, and then he ends up getting released. He is a super talented player. My problem with him, it will be the same problems you've had, I'm sure, watching him as a Cowboys fan, is he makes these wild, acrobatic, spectacular catches, and you're like, damn, I can see why the Cowboys paid him on that extension. And then he either disappears or has these kind of frustrating drops. It's almost like, who is the, you'll remember this, who's the Baylor wide receiver you guys just had? Terrence Williams, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was another one. Spectacular catches and then like disappeared in a lot of ways. He never got that big time extension that Gallup got, I don't think. But like that's the only thing. But I guess for the money that you'd be paying him, you're not paying him to be whatever,
Right.
to name your top receiver. So,
and I will tell you the reason Michael Gallup's numbers from last year is Dak Prescott had so many options compared to what insert quarterback for the Jets. I don't know how many quarterbacks we ended up starting last year. It was like 12. But anyways,
4 actually. But yeah.
Was it really only 4?
Yeah, it was 4 starts. It was Trevor Siemian. You should know this off the top of my head. It was Trevor Siemian, Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, and Tim Boyle was your 4. And they were flirting with a 5th. There was Brett Ripien, or Brett Rippin, excuse me. He was the 5th that almost did. Yeah.
Could we quote you from it? Let him boil. Brett boil.
He boiled over. Unfortunately, that's what happened.
By
there.
the way,
yeah.
it was still in the air. Your quotes of celebrating him when you were already dumping him. You gave him like a 1 week run, a half a week runway.
He got 2 starts. He got 2 starts, and then he was fired, which is unusual for your starting quarterback to just be tossed off the team entirely. Like, get out. Oh, okay. I'll grab my things.
You were ready to give him the hook after the first start. So, but anyways,
I will just say real quick, that was the Scrooge thing. He's like, all right, he's timing it, and he's like, all right, let's get Elliot Wolf or Elliot, whatever his last name is, out of the building and box us back, and booyah, new record. That's what happened with Boyle after that. I think it was the Falcons game. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ugh, that Falcons game, painful.
13-8. 13-8. That's the one thing that excites me a lot, Dad, because I think what a lot of people said last year, people saw it obviously in their face on Hard Knocks. Robert Saleh cursing out the offensive line where they were doing the Carolina Jets joint practice. Like, we need you. He asked for them. He begged for them. He said, this is unacceptable, basically. And a lot of Jet fans and the rest of the NFL is like, oh boy, this offensive line might destroy this entire hype up song that they had. And of course, it happens 4 snaps into the season. This starting 5 offensive line has a chance to be above average. Now, we'll see whatever that means. Above average in there's 32 teams, 16 is average, above 16. A top 15 is how I'm saying it. And health is obviously the big factor with how high are they on that. It is up to interpretation. That's the exciting thing for Aaron Rodgers, is that this is a wall he can be proud of. This is that part is making you feel good about it.
Yeah, just for the comments in that, we will take Zach Wilson. The 3rd floor deck needs a popcorn vendor. So yes,
yeah.
But anyways, we can't go with we don't want to fill Joe Douglas with too many accolades as he did this great signing for the Jets, which Tyron Smith was going to go somewhere. I'm glad that he went to the Jets if he's going to go somewhere, but don't let it.
Can I ask you a question?
In a second.
Can I ask you a quick question real quick?
Yeah.
Why did the Cowboys let him go? Was it purely cap? And then, because and if so, I'm not trying to, put a cigarette burn out on your shoulder here as a 12-year-old growing up, but they didn't go out and start signing crazy people either. So unless it's just waiting opposite Jet style, not opposite Jet style, because it's not like they've been spending crazy money, but like, you guys have all these extensions coming up of CD, Dak, Micah. I mean, all these dudes. Is it simply that reason and then the cap? And that's why he let, because obviously you're more in Cowboys land than I am. I watch all the games for the Cowboys, yes, but the media and stuff, I'm not in the weeds as far as I am with the Jets of knowing decisions on why they let guys go. I think that's a question a lot of Jet fans have, because everyone's a free agent for a reason. Why was Tyron Smith a free agent? Why did they let him go?
Yeah, and I think we talked about it before, not on the air, but it's really, you cannot afford to have the best pass rusher in the NFL, the best wide receiver in the NFL, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Eventually, right, Zach Martin. You can't, right? And just for the record, I love Tyron Smith. He's the second best offensive lineman on the Cowboys, right? And so
Zach Martin, right?
Wrap your head around that, right? And so whatever I said about Tyron Smith, about sacks and all those other facts, he is overshadowed by Zach Martin. So at the end of the day, you can't, the salary cap does not allow you. So they're going to have to extend Micah. They're going to have to figure out Dak. They're going to have to figure out their cornerbacks, two of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. They're going to have to figure out paying all these people. And they know what I definitely don't know. They know what that offensive lineman room looks like. They know what they have, which behind him. And so that is probably it. It's a combination of the talent they have, the talent they project to get, and salary cap, unfortunately. But let's not oversee the bonehead move that was made by Jets management this week.
Right? Ooh, what's that?
What's it? We talked about it yesterday on the phone. You're off the bench. The guy, I'll take a year off playing, and now I'm going to come back, and then the Jets no apparent reason.
Yes. Sure, let's get into that if you'd like, and that I'll set up the room for what that is. We still don't know what's happening here, but obviously the Jets are doing other homework, so to speak. Again, in case you guys missed it, this broke in the middle of the Cowboys news yesterday of Tyron Smith coming over, is that Mike Williams, who was released by the Chargers, that's another salary cap move. He is visiting the Jets on Monday, set to visit the Panthers on Tuesday. Maybe if it goes well, he doesn't leave the building on Monday. So that one is TBD to see what's happening there from Mike Williams. But he's visiting. So that's an important piece of the puzzle. But the Jets, Corey Davis applied for reinstatement to the NFL. So he's making a comeback after leaving the team. And the Jets released his rights, which again, I've been trying to text some people to try to get some answers on that. We're supposed to have a team insider in at some point this upcoming week. I'm hoping it's on the early part of the week because I'd love to answer a few of these questions. So hopefully we could get that locked in on Monday. But yes, the Jets strangely released him from his rights, and they could have traded his rights. They could have exclusively negotiated one-on-one. It just seems odd at this point, unless there's a hint, or unless the Jets just didn't want him, which does seem weird because they really wanted him last year. I don't know. Yeah, it is bizarre.
Right.
So, yeah. I'm assuming you have, and I'm trying to see, Phil, I see you have a super chat in here, but I don't see the Bengals comment. Maybe I'll throw it up on the screen here real quick. See comment regarding Bengals thoughts. Go Jets. Trying to see if I can see. Do you see that there, Pop? What he's talking about?
I was looking for it. I don't see it.
Okay. Phil, if you have it and you're live still in here, I don't want your super chat to go to waste. Please let me know. I'm looking up and I don't see what this Bengals comments you're referencing here. I appreciate the YouTube super chat, though. That is a way to guarantee that your comment gets answered on the program. Yeah, I'm not seeing this Bengals thing. So I've scrolled up. I see nothing about the Bengals. Maybe you could be talking about T. Higgins, I guess. I will randomly speculate until I get more details. There is the potential that the Jets could do that, but I've heard nothing official on that front. It looks like it's Jets in Pittsburgh that are left for Tyler Boyd. He is the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver. That could be another thing, potentially. We'll see. He went to college at Pitt, so that one would make sense if he, went back home from the Bengals. But yeah, until I see that, I'm really not sure what's happening there. But Phil, we will answer that if you give another follow-up comment. It doesn't have to be a super chat, can if you want to be, but to get that Bengals comment in there, let me know. So yeah, what's your take on this Corey Davis thing? So he ends up coming back. He left under very strange circumstances. I did see from Rich Cimini, this is another thing that may factor into your answer. Yesterday he wrote, or 2 days ago, whenever the news hit, that his teammates from Rich Cimini. Oh, let me see. The Bengals comment was, "Do we go the route of the?" Oh, I see what he's talking about. Pick a chase type receiver. Go, yeah, will be interesting. Which gets us more wins. Thoughts? So yeah, so let's show that to you, Dad. With the 5th overall pick, the big debate in draft land leading up for the Bengals that year was Jamar Chase, the talented LSU wide receiver, or Penei Sewell. It was almost like the fundamental question: do you get the pass catcher or do you get the protection? And then people argued that, wow, if you don't, like, you can have Jamar Chase, you can have this. This is how people described it in the draft community that year. That, you can have a Ferrari, but if you lift the hood and there's nothing in there, your Ferrari won't matter because Joe Burrow won't be able to throw him the ball on his back. Despite all that hoopla, both guys were on the board. Penei Sewell, who ended up going to the Detroit Lions, it has been a remarkable offensive lineman. And then on the other side, Jamar Chase been a superstar. They went Jamar Chase, and you could say in some respects it worked out, but if you go to their Super Bowl appearance, it didn't, because Aaron Donald, who just retired, by the way, God bless, to a future Hall of Famer himself, he got through at the end, which ended up winning the Super Bowl for the Rams. So maybe that offensive lineman protects that side and they win. It's impossible to say. But yeah, what do you think on the wide receiver versus offensive line debate for the Jets at 10? Not knowing, of course, what other receivers they could get between now and then, obviously.
Yeah, and so I would not go number 10. The only way I leverage number 10 for an offensive lineman where we sit right now is I use it to trade out of the first round. And then, right, I think we don't have it now, but if we trade out of the first round, we could. I would go second round, third round, get the backup, right, somebody that could develop into a starter in a couple of years. We don't need, one of the top 10 offensive linemen. That's my opinion. I would draft backs to the second or third round, pick up that offensive lineman, which I believe needs to be one of their third or fourth round picks is offensive line if they don't trade out. I would say I wouldn't necessarily. I think Brock Bowers, if he is available at 10, it's not a wide receiver, but he brings a lot to the table. I think he would be a good option. I think we go get wide receiver 2 from free agency. Similar to the conversation, whether it's, again, I wouldn't go with OBJ, but someone like that through free agency that's not going to break the bank, and then use, the developmental third or fourth. And then, we're not going to be able to get rid of Lazard. And hopefully with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, Lazard lives up to a fraction of his contract. He's not going to live up to the contract, live up to a fraction of his contract. So I wouldn't go offensive lineman. I would consider a weapon at number 10. So however that shakes out. So that is a need, but I also think Brock Bowers would be a very, very tasty, if I use your pick there, and filling wide receiver 2. And then I make Lazard, right? I think with Aaron throwing, he would be better, right? And so
he has to be, I guess.
It couldn't be worse. So that's my thoughts, right? I wouldn't go offensive line the first time. Absolutely not.
Okay. Like it. Interesting comment. We'll see. And shoot, if the Jets trade out of the first round, they're going to have a lot more than a second round pick. They're going to have a King's ransom going from 10 to at least 33. That would be massive. So, but we'll see what kind of trade backs potentially they could do. Because obviously I think it's even more on the table now that you have left tackle solved. So you can flirt with. I mentioned this on the show yesterday that the name I kind of like now that they have Tyron is Tyler Guyton, the offensive tackle out of Oklahoma, who people say, draft experts, not myself, I just love consuming it, say that he needs a little bit of time, but he has the most upside of all the offensive tackles. And to put him in a room with Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, 2 veterans that have been doing it for a decade plus at the highest level, that to me, okay, that's intriguing if you trade back. I don't think a 10, but if you trade back get a bunch of assets and still get someone like that, or if one of the big 3 receivers falls, I am tempted, or potentially Brock Bowers as well. There's a lot of temptation there. Okay, let's go back to the Corey Davis thing real quick. Thank you for the super chat, Phil. I appreciate it. And I also see Frank's comments in here as well. I thought the Corey Davis release was due to reducing cap because the Jets were responsible for his salary now that he reinstated himself. That's true, but again, Corey Davis had to apply for reinstatement. So he could have, because he's under contract with the Jets, he could have showed up to one. This is what I'm saying. Corey Davis texts the Jets, says, I want to come back, because he has to communicate with them somehow, because they own his rights. So he has to come to the Jets first before he just randomly applies for reinstatement. It's not like the Jets get a text, ba-ding, Corey Davis wants back. Weird. All right, let's cut him. Like, that's not how the interaction happened. He would have had to talk to the Jets. So when he shows up to one Jets drive, Corey, what's up, man? Let's sit down. Hey, Jets, I want to come back to the league. We have your rights. Phenomenal. For us, for this, for that. And if he says not for us, I'm like, all right, I'm trading you. If he says for us, okay, right now, me, you, call up your agent, put him on speakerphone. We're going to figure out this contract right now. Me and you, you're under contract with us. So we're going to renegotiate your entire deal. Maybe it's a 1-year deal. We just change the money or what have you. That's what I'm saying. So yes, eventually, once he is reinstated, sure, they would owe him the money, but you could rework the deal before he's ever reinstated. That's my point. That's the thing I don't get. Again, I'm texting team insiders on the old phone, and I'm hoping that I'm able to get one on Monday, because that's a question I want to know, because maybe there's something we don't know. But yes, this is true once he's reinstated, but the conversation would have happened before he's reinstated, which wouldn't have affected the cap until it would affect the cap with him being applied. So that's my part. But Dad, I know you have a take on this as well. So please share on old Corey Davis, who was entering the last year of his deal before he walked away. Jets hold his rights, which is $10.5 million non-guaranteed salary is what he was set to be owed once reinstated if he remained on the Jets, and he did not. They released him. He is now an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, I think, and there, surely they can't be this incompetent, right? There must be something we don't know, and I look forward to finding out what it is, right? If he wanted to be reinstated, the Jets hold the cards, right? That $10 million, and I don't know exactly how this works, but that contract wasn't for this year, right? That they had the ability to negotiate with him because he was on their roster. They reinstated him. It appears they made no attempt to do that, right?
No,
and so that's the questionable. That's what doesn't make sense to me. And there maybe there isn't any other explanation, but not to at least figure out if we could work out a deal. A guy coming off the couch is obviously not worth $10 million when he's been doing nothing for the past year. And,
right.
If he had been a reasonable price of $5 or $6 million, let's say, the Jets would, why not have the conversation? And those conversations take time. And so he filed for reinstatement, and then we immediately let him go. We had some leverage there. That's what I don't understand.
Yes. So like I said, I will have to try to get answers. I hope we could get those soon, because that'd be interesting. Because here's the thing. The NFL is not for long, as they say. It's a cold-blooded business. So the only explanation I have right now, until further explanation is provided to me by a team insider, the Jets just did a nice thing and said, Corey, we're going to cut the leash free. Go run around. It's all you, pal. And Field Yates of ESPN, who broke the story on Twitter, said there's a chance he comes back. So you cut the leash and say, go on, Lassie. If you ever want to come back, right here. So maybe he goes around, runs around, sees the deals, and comes back to the Jets. But again, still, even if that were to happen, I'd still question, like, man, you just got lucky, because he could have easily went off and signed with anyone. And because you, quote unquote, released him, it's not like you're getting a comp pick or anything. Like, you get zip and bip if he ends up signing with another team. So details to come on that, but it is a bit bizarre. We'll see. Yeah. Insiders are kind of split. Some say they are leaning towards him returning. Others are saying, nope, I'm leaning towards him leaving. So,
right. I'd fly his ass in and make him run some routes. Right.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson, his arm's pretty fresh. He could throw some passes to Corey Davis.
Yeah. Well, OTAs are right around the corner.
To somebody on the chat, I would break the rule for best player available if Joe Alt would drop to number 10. Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. My thought is so at first I'm like Joe Alt isn't falling. So here's the pulse of Boy Green speaking in a weird third person. Okay, beginning of season, I'm like, no way they get Joe Alt. He's going too high. Then the combine stuff, you're like, whoa, okay. It looks like all these teams in front of them are not going offensive tackle. Joe Alt stock up. Okay, great. And then the Titans, who were looking at a wide receiver apparently at the combine, signed Calvin Ridley to a cajillion dollars. Okay, they're going back to offensive tackle. So at least, in my opinion, at this moment in time, and new information to come, of course, at least one offensive tackle is going in front of the Jets, and that will be the 7th overall pick. Insert name. Joe Alt, you are a Tennessee Titan with the 7th overall pick. So it seems like unless they go crazy and say, hey, with a 7th overall pick, we take Joe Blow from Arkansas. Well, okay, they didn't take Joe Alt. That's weird. And then he falls to the Jets. Right now, it sounds like the best case is second best offensive lineman, and that's if no one else touches the offensive line heading in. So we will see TBD. But yeah, obviously, yeah, that would be compelling to potentially, as NY Jets FL says here on our YouTube channel, the Joe Alt at BP at 10. I mean, sure. You would have Tyron Smith, and if he was to miss any significant time, you have a Joe Alt, who is going to be more than ready to go, obviously, to step in. I feel like a lot of Jet fans would feel differently about this quote-unquote luxury pick than last year because Will McDonald isn't protecting Aaron Rodgers. Will McDonald isn't having this ripple effect on the offense in the same way. Maybe he does this year and he's Lawrence Taylor, but the chance of that seem unlikely for him to have that kind of impact in year 2 after not playing. But to the Jets, whatever credit or whatever you want to talk about or confidence, they kept calling at the end of the year that Will McDonald, like to us, the media, he has a chance to be a superstar. They kept throwing all these. They said, I don't want to put any pressure on him, but superstar, 6, and they're drooling. I'm like, Jesus, okay, well, I hope you guys are right. But I think people would feel a lot differently if the BPA at 10 is offensive line, because that would help you in the future. I know it wouldn't be an immediate starter, at least as the offensive line is currently constructed. But after all the injuries, not too shabby. Not too shabby. Okay. Yep. Yeah, learning behind Smith is great. That's what I would say. Whether it's Funga, yeah, we got to pronounce it differently. Apparently, he sent that into the league, or Olu. Any of those would be tempting. And they're talking about the potential trade up, trading next year second to get Neighbors or Alt do it Jets. We'll see if they're that level of aggression, because now that you did the Tyron Smith move, even though it seems like reasonable money, if you're already in the aggressive pool, why not? And Mitch, in case you missed it, which apparently you did, $6.5 million is guaranteed according to Pro Football Talk on Tyron Smith. The other 13.5 is incentive laden on playing time, and I would imagine playoffs and things of that nature is also included. Those specific details are not out yet, but they will be out soon from Over the Cap, and we'll know that. But only $6.5 million guarantee, which is even better than I thought.
What was that P word you said? What was the P word you just said?
Playing time incentive. Performance incentive?
What happens after the regular season? I know you don't understand because it's been so long.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. Hey, what happens in the conference championship? Has that happened this century for you guys? You know what I'm talking about? Come on. Let's not play this game.
We've won as many as you have.
That's not true. You have not gone to as many as this.
Conference championships? But anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
The real question that we should probably end on is, will the Jets go get Geno Smith when Vice President Aaron Rodgers, what are they going to do there?
Okay. I know you're a much more, what's a way to put this? You are a much more insert word political man. My take has simply been this, and I know let me read the latest update here. Okay, for all, because everyone of course is on this story. Let's see. Wait, I'll have the article here in just a second from Pro Football. Here it is. Okay, so this came out at 1 a.m. It's from Pro Football Talk. Robert F. Kennedy has named Aaron Rodgers as a finalist for VP on an independent presidential ticket. The Jets currently don't believe Rodgers will run it, although as of Friday morning, they hadn't heard from him about it. That's from Pro Football Talk at 1 a.m. To me, this is my take. I think it's all a media grab. I think Mr. Old RFK here is getting all kinds of pub like this show. national and everything else. Well, Aaron Rodgers, RFK, Aaron Rodgers, and they're saying them all in the same stuff together. I think personally, it's just additional media attention because there's no way this independent is going to win and become the president of the United States. There's a 0% chance of that happening. So Rodgers would never be VP. So I just think it's a lot of hoopla. Although we should know, apparently, according to the Pro Football Talk article, in 10 days on March 26, old RFK here will have to officially announce who his VP is. And I think he's only including Aaron Rodgers in the finalist as a media grab and getting the attention. And then on March 26th, he announces Joe Blow, whoever the hell that is, and then this thing is over. That's what I believe.
Yeah, one of his other options is Jesse the Body Ventura.
I think he just turned that down. I think I just saw. Let me see if that's true. Let me see. But yeah, that's what a group. New York Jets quarter. That feels like Flash Gordon. New York Jets quarterback. New York Jets quarterback. Aaron Rodgers or Jesse the Body Ventura. I was very disappointed that in all the places that I saw them, saying Jesse Ventura, no one was calling him the Body. So I'm like, come on, people, come on. I was like, yeah, let's get some of our wrestling in there. But yeah. So I can't find it immediately, but I thought he did remove himself, but we'll see. Either way. So long story short, that's my gut. My gut is that it's just all media hoopla. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, Johnny asked a question about if there was a trade back with Jax, get a second round pick,
Let me see.
trade it for Devontae.
Johnny. Okay, maybe my comments are coming faster than yours. I'll find that in a second. Yep, I'm still looking.
Yeah, and so I don't think the Raiders would take a single first-round draft pick for Devontae. I think the cost would be too high for Devontae, so I don't think that's a viable option. I think they would want more than the first. And if we could get him for a first, if there was a way to manipulate things around, that'd be fine. But I just don't see him going for one first-round draft pick at this time. And nor do I think the Raiders are going to let him go, period.
Yeah, I want Devontae, and I've said it, and I think the trade's still live because this was another point of contention between me and my father of the Gardner Minshew value. But if I'm Devontae Adams, and I look at the quarterback room, and I'm like, again, he wanted Antonio Pierce. Fine, Antonio Pierce is back. Antonio Pierce ain't throwing him footballs. And he looks at the quarterback room. Aiden O'Connell, eye roll. I saw him in Syracuse for that Purdue-Syracuse game. Aiden O'Connell, very meh. Go to Gardner Minshew, meh. There's no Aaron Rodgers in that room. So and that directly impacts my production. I'm like, a little questionable. So I've always thought that in the back of his mind, if a compelling enough offer came, Devontae wouldn't say, no, please don't trade me, Raiders. I think he'd be intrigued. Now, to this question or point, I'm not on board with trading a first for Devontae. I know in this scenario, you trade back to 17, you get a second, and then in theory, you trade your 17, which is a lot of moving pieces, and you have to have a lot of that figured out if that's a draft day thing. You'd have to have that figured out in advance. But again, a first for Devontae 2 or 3 years ago when he was traded, the Raiders gave up a first and a second, and he's now 2 or 3 years older. So I know just a first would be less than a first and a second. I don't know, man. I want Devontae, but I want him at the Paul price. I don't want him at the first round price.
Just for the record, the Paul price is Paul Boy Green. He still goes to the day old Little Caesars pizza rack, right? So Little Caesars sell their pizzas for $5, and then they have this other rack. It's not really a rack; it's a trash can, and he'll pick that out because he is literally the cheapest person on the face of the planet Earth. If you go to him and you deliver food, and the total for the food is $19.95, he hands you a 20, and then he's waiting for you to give him that nickel.
I prefer the term selective, but different strokes, different folks, I suppose. So we'll see on Devontae. But I love the creativity, Johnny. It's a good question. Thanks for joining us on all the live shows yesterday. We appreciate it. Again, that's creative because then at least you have the second, and then with the first, in theory, you fill wide receiver, and then you can fill the other things later. So it's compelling. It's kind of interesting. Now having Tyron, it makes you feel a little bit differently about it, I would say. So excellent. All right, Father. So first off, let's go back to the beginning. You have the Cardinals jersey on. You're a Cardinals former Emmitt Smith jersey that again he played there. There hasn't been a lot of time to digest this, but Cowboys fans, are they pissed? Are they whatever? And also, like, do you think how many Cowboys fans have an Emmitt Smith Cardinals jersey? Do you believe, if you had to speculate in the universe of people that are like, you know what, let me get it for our guy, for Emmett, like, because I'll reveal it to you. I don't have a Revis Patriots jersey. Now that one's probably a little different with the Saquon Eagles Giants thing, not being in the division, but the same conference. Like, how many other people like you are there out there in the universe, do you believe?
0.
So it's just you. Okay, well, no,
But
that was an
to
important
answer your question, I would say the Cowboys fans are sad.
Sad.
And
Okay.
I'm sad. I completely understand. You truly cannot pay everybody. And I hope the best. I hope it's not one of those situations, and we just talked about it last week or the week before. I hope it's not a Robert Jones situation, and that they saw something, and that's why they let him go, and it was purely a salary cap. That's my hope. I want him to go to the Jets, be healthy, succeed, whether it's for 1, 2, or 3 years. So it's really just it's unfortunate, and I really do. I went back to what I said. The NFL needs to get creative and allow you like some veteran exception. So if someone's been with your team for greater than 10 years, you're allowed to go above the salary cap by 5%, something like that, to sign.
They have bird rights in the NBA, but I believe that's more so beginning of career than end of career for that one. And then the other thing that they have to incentivize people to stay now is that in theory, so like if the salary cap was like this, it's not quite like this because NBA is more like slotted, sort of. Like the Cowboys would be allowed to pay him more money than any other team. So like a 5th year for like insert money. Like the NBA has some of that action. So like, okay, you could leave, but you're not getting any more money from anywhere else than you are here, which in theory incentivizes people to stay. So we don't have the crazy movement because they're like, oh boy, that's an extra 50 mil. That's an extra whatever. So they do have that in the NBA.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be something there. I mean, let's talk about it, right?
Okay.
Let's say he plays for the Jets 2 or 3 years, right? Right now, right, Tyron Smith has been to more Pro Bowls than I believe almost any other Jet in history, other than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I was about to say, hey,
Other
let
than
me check.
Aaron Rodgers,
Brett
right?
Favre,
Brett Favre, yeah, that
LaDainian Tomlinson,
I don't think LaDainian Tomlinson. So for the Jets fans, I did not say Brett Favre on purpose because that probably is painful. So I didn't talk about that.
I appreciate
But
that.
he's already been to 8 Pro Bowls. That's more than Revis. And with a few more years in him, he's likely at 7. You can look it up. For the likelihood,
No, I was just trying to think of other Jets because you said it's more than probably any other Jet.
He's in the window of being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame type career.
I think I'm going to, maybe just me, I think he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer right now if he walked away.
Yeah. So I hope the best for him. I do hope the best for him.
Okay. I really don't want you to answer this question, but I guess I'm compelled to put it up anyway. Johnny says, Papa Ediston, we need to hear a silly, good Boy Green childhood story. Woohoo, let's go. We have Tyron Smith. Okay. Yeah, feel free not to answer this question. We can just end the show right now.
Yeah. The real problem, Johnny, is I wouldn't know where to start.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you a silly childhood story. He convinced his sister to sign a contract to be his lifetime employee / slave for like a penny a day or something like that. And she actually signed it. But that actually made me, he actually one time had a funeral for one of the fish. He actually had a Bible, funeral rites, as him and his sister stood over the toilet as they gave final rites and passage to the fish. So I'm not sure which of those two stories is more, what you're looking for. But yeah, he was, I have to think of a few good ones. We'll do one a week maybe at the end of the show.
Okay. And yes, for that, we also played the Scottish bagpipes, Amazing Grace, as the fish went down to its watery grave, as we found out for that one. By the way, I'm pretty sure the contract is legally binding. She should still be working for me right now at that penny charge as my secretary. So, that one, we might need to review the tape, send that into the legal courts, and try to get that checked out because, she signed that. Yeah,
But
that's true.
actually, I believe you cut her due to salary cap considerations because you're a cheap ass.
It's possible.
Because you're saving up that penny so that you could pay for the pizza tip as you're still waiting for the nickel.
Nope. I was just saving that penny for the future salary of Tyron Smith. That's the one that I was looking at, and it's phenomenal. Wow. Yeah. Awkward reveal on Paul, at least one a week. I love that concept. Phil, what in God's green earth? Whose team are you on here? This is I'm not sure this has divulged in Crazy Town. But I will say this to the 1,000+ people that are watching this show live right now. My father gets to join me every week. We said it on the show last night. I don't know if you saw that, Ed. I imagine not. It was a 2-hour live stream randomly late at night. But Johnny came on the show and he talked about his relationship with his father. And I told him that it's pretty cool that we get to do this every week. People do construction or other odd jobs where obviously they're not doing this with their father on a week-to-week basis. So it is a blessing to be able to do this. It's a blessing to be able to have Tyron Smith protecting the blind side of Hall of Famer to Aaron Rodgers. It's beautiful. But in all seriousness, it is cool to be able to do this each week. Despite your apparently embarrassing stories that you have a Bible, you apparently have an unlimited list to get to. That will be interesting, I guess, for lack of a better I word. So that should be. Oh wow, that looks thick, pretty thick. That's a book. But Father, thank you. This was a crazy show. Well done on the Emmitt Smith Cardinals jersey job. But people also appreciated the hat flip in the middle of your conversation where you said you both lost a player and gained a player. Ah, man. Okay, Jet fans, let's go. It's that was phenomenal. It was good stuff.
All right, very good. It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to next week.
Okay, excellent, guys. We'll be back tomorrow morning live for Boy Green Daily. To the 800 that are watching on Twitter, make sure you guys hit the follow button. And the 200 on YouTube, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe, and we'll be back. And also shout out to the Heavy on Jets listeners for supporting this show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow unless there's more breaking news. We'll let you know. See you then. Take care.